I got a phone call and I was told, hey, Fred Philbrook, who had moved from Michigan in 1992 and established this Mill Creek view that Mill Creek really hadn't even incorporated yet. Actually, side note, Bill Gates's father incorporated the city of Mill Creek outside of Seattle where they lived, and he created this hometown newspaper. And it was a paper that was a lot different than the competitors in the area, the Linwood Times or the Everett Herald. And so he still had it delivered by kids, like young kids. And so one of those young kids happened to be my own daughter when we moved into Mill Creek because nobody else was hiring during COVID. And so by her getting a job of newspaper delivery door to door, I had a job because she couldn't drive yet. So I had to go and sit in the neighborhoods while she would do her route and then pick her up. And so in the course of that, I would go, if there was one paper too little or too many, I would take them back to the shop and I would talk to Fred, and I got to know him a little bit. And he happened to be an 82nd Airborne veteran and a heck of a karaoke singer. And so he got to know me, and I'd pick up her checks. He got to know me a little bit. And then within not even a year, when he went into the hospital, they wouldn't honor his spousal marital rights because COVID had these protocols. And so his wife couldn't visit him. And so she started talking to me. And when she went in finally to visit with him, and it happened to be the very end, she said, Fred, you've created this amazing traditional staple of the community. What do you want to do with it if something happens to you and you don't get out of the hospital? And he said, call Steve. And I said, why did he say call Steve? And they were very nice. They took me out to dinner, and one of the contributors happens to be named Vincent Cavallari, and he's a deputy sheriff in Snohomish County where this paper was a staple, and he is also on the city council. So very important for his brand of, to be elected, to be spokesman for the city. And they sat me down over steak at a restaurant called The Keg and said, hey, we really want you to do this. What do you think? And I said, well, okay, I'm happy to help my new neighbors. I just moved there, like I said, but I got to know Vince and I knew what it was all about. And I had only ever written one column for my college newspaper, and it happened to be on St. Patrick's Day bar crawling. And I only did it so I could get the press pass so I didn't have to stand in line. But I said, okay, but I know a thing or two about business. And I think I could probably do this just for one reason, to keep the kids employed, because I thought that was so wholesome, so Americana, so wonderful. And we did it. And so I said I would do a tribute edition for Fred, which was when he was sick, it obviously was on hold for, let's say, 3 or 4 weeks. I'd do a tribute edition for Fred, and then I'll get it back to its regular scheduled rotation. And that was 4.5 years ago. So I did it, and I kept going. I liked it so much. I started writing my own column. I started, like I said, the website so people could see more timely news instead of, it was a once every 2 week paper, by the way. And so instead of being once every 2 weeks, it was every day. And the podcast, because there were a lot of voices in the Pacific Northwest that were not being heard leading up to that election. And if y'all remember that, it was pretty contentious election, midterms of Trump's first term. And so that gave me a lot of access to folks that Seattle Times, Cairo, these local channels, they weren't going to talk to them. So I did. I said, sure, I did. And so we had a great little niche again to spread the word. And I used to read the newspaper in the first half so that it could spread a little further, get into the Linwood Times neighborhoods and, up there into Everett Herald where they don't get it because we couldn't deliver by kids door to door up there. And yeah, like I said, it was phenomenal. Then I moved to Tennessee for a whole nother set of circumstances, but I was still running it from here. But I realized that I just couldn't cover the local flavor from here. It didn't make any sense anymore, even though it was an opinion paper. But they did have, the city hall, the news that comes out of there, the local police blotter, the 4th of July parade upcoming, to advertise this. And I just couldn't do it anymore. So I gave it over to another entity that's still doing it to this day. Same mission, keep those kids learning responsibility, earning a couple bucks, getting a job that you can't do. You can't work at McDonald's if you're 8, 9, 10 years old, but you can deliver papers. And moved to heartlandjournal.com, who you're basically interviewing me, representing now today. And that's been over a year plus, and it's just been great. The subscriber growth has been amazing. We just did our first annual Heartland Journal Award that I was motivated to create for all the subscribers and non-subscribers to vote on their favorite candidates of the contest: best actor, best actress, best female singer, best male singer, because the CMAs, the big guys, canceled theirs because of budget cut. So I said, well, that's not, you gotta honor these artists